I still think I'd like the company of a woman. Maybe we'd have to learn some things about her, I'd have to build trust. But I still think I'd rather have that. Because even if I was just building hunting gathering or something like that, I'd still need assistance.
Welcome to the Bass Reeves Gun Club podcast, where we discuss all things firearm and shooting sports. I'm your host, Antonio Hicks, and I'm excited to bring you the latest news, tips, tricks, and historic discussions about guns in the minority community. We are a pro-Second Amendment community of responsibly armed citizens, and we take pride in learning and sharing our knowledge within the community. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in.
Yes, it's kind of, it's hard being a kid nowadays, right? Because, I'd like to tell parents talk to me all the time about, my son's interested in this, and would you teach my son? And I say, well, I really have to know your son in order to teach your son. I'm not confident teaching anybody anything that I know, that I don't know their character, right? Mm-hmm. And I'd like to recommend, getting the replica BB guns, right? So that you can do target practice and, don't have the bang, but they have the action, right? So you get the kid used to aiming and so forth and so on, and moving and so forth and so on. But, I think about Tamir Rice, right? And how, a black kid can't really do that, can he? If he's outside playing with a gun, somebody, we won't call a Karen, but somebody is going to call and exaggerate the situation. So it's not, sometimes it's not safe, right? So, but I did that with my son, in my yard, of course. That's why his first actual shot was a bullseye, right? As a matter of fact, it was here with Bass Reeves Gun Club. It was Randy. Shout out to Randy Johnson. Randy was coaching my son, and he put his sights on. And I said, well, that's a plate, but let's give him something a little more to shoot at. So Randy took a red marker and put a little red dot there, and my son took his first shot and put a hole in that red dot. But it was 5 yards. Is what they were shooting from. But, his confidence came from the preparation with the BB guns and the targets in the backyard and so forth and so on. He was a little bit shocked by the kick of the gun, but because his fundamentals were correct, right, by the time the recoil and all that stuff happened, the shot was already where it needed to be, right? So the shot had already left the muzzle before the recoil came. So the fact that his fundamentals were straight made him confident, right? And so a person can either end up liking shooting or hating shooting based on how they're taught, right? And based on whether or not the gun they're presented to start shooting with is the right size and caliber for them to start with. So when I start people off new, I start with the .22, right? And I let them work with that, and then we move slowly to once you are just picking off targets with the .22, then we move to the 9 or something like that they might be more comfortable with as a self-defense weapon. But it is always about proper training, a building of confidence, and then having the confidence that you can put whatever it is that you're using into play if you need to, and putting the right furniture on it. You know what I mean? If you nearsighted, farsighted, or something like that, and you need an aid, then you might go with a red dot. If for some reason, you got a little stigmatism and the red dot's not going to work for you, then you back down to the laser, right? And if you get a laser from the store, it's going to be accurate, meaning it's going to be straight, pretty much from the store. What you may have is a difference in mechanical offset, right? So what you need to know is if you take your shots and your fundamentals are good, let's say you start at 3 yards, you take those shots, and you see where the laser is, you see where the shot goes, you say, okay, it's about an inch off.
You adjust it.
You just make the mechanical offset. You know what I mean? So it's understanding those types of things that can make you feel comfortable. Now I know I can take that shot. Some people don't want to even pull their gun because they're not sure what they're gonna hit.
Right.
And so and it's wrong to present a weapon that you're not fully prepared to engage. Because now what you've done is you've escalated things to a point that if that person has a weapon, they're going to pull and they're going to finish it off, right? So if you're going to pull at all, you need to be, ready to engage, But yeah.
So knowing all that, what are some of the scenarios that inspire you to like own a gun for protection, such as like fear of crime, domestic violence, a racially charged event, civil war?
History. The history of this country, right? Understanding history makes me understand that I need to be able to protect myself. There will be times where the professional law enforcement officers may be too busy for my concerns, right? Or maybe they're just unwilling to respond to the scenario that they understand is happening. And sometimes they tend to come when it's over, right? So understanding I might have to be my own first responder because of history, right? Right. When Black Wall Street, right, was happening, there was law enforcement in the area. They didn't respond, or maybe they were in other uniforms participating, right?
Oh, they responded.
Oh yeah, so
but they didn't respond the way that we wanted to respond.
Right. So that's what I'm getting at. When they're either late or unwilling, then you have to be your own first responder, right? So you need to be able to protect your home. You need to be able to protect yourself, and explain later, right? But so yeah, history has taught me that I need to be my own first responder. That means I don't only need to know how to put in holes, but I need to know how to plug them, right? So and somebody else in the house needs to be able to put them in and plug them as well. Because if you got one that knows, then you really have none, right? You got two, you got one, right? That's how it works, right? So yeah, we need to make sure we have, and then you have to have the right tool, right? So people say, oh, I have a pistol. Okay, that's cool. And then I have a shotgun or a rifle, right? And that depends on how your house is built and how you do that, right? But then the thing that gets me, if you have pistol, shotgun, rifle, a couple of pistols, but then you don't have no bulletproof vest. So then the question is what role are you playing? You like one of those guys who want to learn how to fly the plane but not know how to land? What's going on there? You think you're going to be in a conflict and you're the only one shooting? No one's shooting back, So the idea of defense is defense, right? Sometimes, when we talk as a group, in the men's group, we talk about distance being the greatest defense, right? Right? In martial arts, the same thing, right? Yeah, exactly. Distance is the greatest defense. If I'm not there, you can't hit me, right? So even when we go out in the community, right? We go out in the community, if I'm not at those places that have, these so-called problems all the time, I'm just watching them on the news. I'm not there. Right. My best defense was just to not be there. So some things we know because we're part of the community. We know where hot spots are. And there's certain places we shouldn't be. So we have to exercise that as well, right? And we have to teach that kind of level of caution to our family and community. My son, hey, Dad, can I go with my friends down to Atlanta? What you doing? Oh, we just gonna hang out. Oh, no, you ain't got a plan. No, that ain't gonna work. I didn't raise you this far, and you ready to go off on to Purdue, and I'm gonna be on the news talking about my baby just turned 18, and all he wanted to do was go hang out. That ain't gonna be me. Yeah. No, you may not like it, son, but that's not gonna be me. You're gonna have to tell me where you going, right? How you getting in, how you getting back, or you not going. And that's my job. It's not, you know what I mean? Those are the, yeah, we gotta definitely make sure we understand, and paying attention to all those types of little things, right? And not put ourselves in situations we don't need to be, and not escalating things we don't need to. Just because you have a gun don't mean you're a tough guy. It don't mean that you should, you know what I mean? Because like I said, if you draw that weapon on the wrong person, you'll be full of holes before you even, I think, we need to think more about what we do. I'm saying you should carry. I'm saying you should be prepared. But I'm saying that your best defense is just common sense, right? And being cautious, right? Staying at a certain level of caution and getting your family home. That's your job. Your job ain't to show how tough you are. Your job is to show that I can get you, I'll take you out and bring you back. Right. And I'm gonna bring you back just the way I took you out, right?
Mine has kind of changed over the years, mainly due to education. And I say that because I've grown up here in Atlanta. So we talked about the best defense is not to be there. So I know the hoods of Atlanta, where to go, where not to go. So, me hanging out in the city is not a problem in many cases, because I know where areas to avoid and what not to avoid. But one of the things that I've noticed as I've gotten older is, I think a lot of it has to do with the political climate, just seeing a little bit of outrage and a little bit of, I don't know, just brazen show of force in certain situations where, firearms are used when there were marches and things like that. And after we had our ruck walk last week, that really opened my eyes as well, and not necessarily a dangerous situation of a mob or anything like that, but what if I do have to leave my premise or leave my vehicle for something? Am I prepared for what may happen? We talked, there are different scenarios where it doesn't have to be a civil protest or anything like that. We talked about the snowstorm a few years ago, like having to walk home and what would I have with me if I needed to walk home, and what if I encountered somebody that was in just a desperate situation as I was, and they were going to do what they needed to do to survive, and vice versa. And then I'd say the last piece, not necessarily crime, but seeing certain situations where, especially when I've been in those areas, and like, wow, what would I have done if I was in that situation? And so, I've thought about that a lot this past year, especially being a new gun owner, and what's my role and responsibility in those situations, and it's definitely opened my eyes quite a bit when we talk about Black gun ownership and just the history of it. And as I'm studying more, it's like, wow, I don't want to say I'm naive to it, but it's just when you don't know the history around certain things, you tend to judge it incorrectly. Mm-hmm. And I've learned to, before I make any kind of judgment or statement, understand the background around it. And so this, 18, I would say a little bit over 18-month journey has been one that's been very educational and very humbling at the same time, because I do see like various differences in those situations, what we can do, what we should do, and what I need to, as myself, need to be prepared for.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I got hit with a double-edged sword because I'm from here too. But I'm from Macon, Georgia, and I grew up in between Macon and Stone Mountain. Mm-hmm. And we had sundown towns in Macon that we couldn't go to. And then growing up in Stone Mountain, we were faced with like the Confederate reenactments and then like the Klan rally. So for me, it's like I was scared of everybody because I had my own people potentially trying to take me out. And then no matter wherever I went in Stone Mountain, I had another group of people trying to take me out. And we had grew up around firearms, but my parents never allowed it in the house because my mom was fearful of firearms. Mm-hmm. But once I became of age, I had every firearm. I had every firearm. And then my trainer, when I was doing boxing, kickboxing, he was the first one to actually teach me how to shoot. We went up to the mountains up in Woodstock, and he had a cabin up there, and like all the people that were in the boxing class, we all went over martial arts techniques out in the woods and stuff. And then he taught us like drills and stuff when it was late at night and there was no lights out or anything. And then he taught us how to shoot across the lake. So for me, it was like you just said, because of history. Mm-hmm. History taught me that I have to protect myself and be fearful of everybody that's around me. Mm-hmm. Because to me, which I said early on, when it comes to like a woman gun or a bear, it's like I don't want any human around me because I can't trust any humans around me because I've seen the worst of everybody. Mm-hmm. Like I've seen situations to where my cousin, his best friend, they stopped on the side of the road, practicing chivalry. 2 women had broken down on the side of the road. 2 guys stopped to help him out. Like, okay, what y'all need help with? We can help, change tires or whatever. So they asked to get a ride back to a gas station around the corner of Brockett Road. So they said, okay, we don't mind get you over there. It was before the age of cell phones. Everybody had cell phones. So they took them out to the gas station, got to the gas station, they got robbed. And one of the guys in the car got killed. The people that robbed and shot him. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, now you can't even really practice chivalry anymore because you don't know what that scenario is going to be. Like, you don't know if they're trying to set you up for a situation to where you can get robbed.
No, I understand that. I think you definitely need to know the language of the place that you're visiting or going. Like, I wouldn't say to you not to go to a certain place, if there was something you need to do there. It shouldn't be like, oh, I can't go into that hood, I've gone places outside of the country or whatever, and I had tourist guides tell me, oh, you shouldn't go there. You shouldn't go to that. Okay, no. I'm going because, those are my people, you know what I mean? And I think, there's there's an energy. We can speak on that level if we don't have the same, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think you do need to know a little bit about where you're going so that you understand the language that's spoken there, right? And what I mean by that, we talk about male and female relations. We talk about love language, right? Mm-hmm. But there is a language in the hood, right? There's a language in almost every place you go, whether it's the hood or not. There's still a language that's spoken there. And you need to be at least have an understanding of it, if not well versed, before you go there, right? Like I was saying before, if I was in New York, I wouldn't bring Harlem energy to Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. That would be a problem, right? But I also need to know the language, right? So that when I'm there, I can blend in and whatever, not try to play post or put myself on something different and then draw a lot of attention to myself. That's not necessary, Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, when my nephews was growing up, the old town I used to live in ended up going blood and crip type thing, mm-hmm. And them being from the suburbs, wanting to go hang out in my old neighborhood and get there and not understand the language, not understand the party you going to is a blood party, mm-hmm. and you know what I mean, and then you get into a situation where bad things happen. So the idea is just to know the language where you're going, and like I said, stay cautious and get in and do what you need to do and move on, right? Don't be still and providing yourself as a target. Keep it moving, right? Same thing we say when we're practicing, right? You're not going to stand there in one place and shoot, mm-hmm. Over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. Right. You're going to take a shot, move, take a shot, move, take a shot, move. Otherwise, you're playing a game of catch with somebody. Mm-hmm. At some point, you're going to catch one, right? So we want to keep moving, right? So that's the thing. Like I said, like you said before, and I read that book too, Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. And it's true, right? You mm-hmm. always want to be thinking martial. And if you are a warrior on the inside, right? Most black men are a warrior, we before a nation, right? Mm-hmm. And if you are that way, then you stay that way, right? So that means that you think that way, you move that way, right? And, some people around you might be like, dude, what you on?
Right.
I'm on going home, bro.
Right.
Right? That's what I'm on. I'm on going home. So, some people get sloppy when they outside. Mm-hmm. One too many, right? And now they sloppy. Now your name used to be Bruce, but now it's Victor, right? It was Victor Timothy, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to watch how you handle yourself, right? So it's all right to go out, but like I says, always be cautious. Not have one too many. Don't drink an open drink that somebody poured for you and you don't know them.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Definitely,
always
right.
levels of consciousness and states of caution, right?
Yeah, I remember back in the day, the brothers used to wear the perms.
Yeah.
So, true story about this. We were dating at the time, and we were back in Memphis. And in Memphis, that used to be the real gangsters. They would have their hair permed down.
Ooh, I never experienced
that. And my wife's girlfriend at the time, she was like, "Ooh, he was sweet." I said, "Oh no, sister, this brother's the hardest dude that's been here." I said, "You say one thing wrong, he's spraying everybody." So, mm-hmm. But in Atlanta, that wasn't our thing to do. Mm-hmm. we were a whole totally different vibe. But to y'all's point of knowing the language mm-hmm. of the environment you're in, as soon as I saw that brother, I knew what the deal was. And, and it wasn't like he was in there and looking for trouble. It was just like, say the wrong thing and he gonna bring trouble to you.
Yeah.
But it goes back to what you talk about, the level of confidence, though. Like my first time in New York, everybody was like, "Oh, well, you got to be careful because New York this and New York is that." And I'm like, I went to New York, I had no problems.
Yeah.
Like people were speaking to me, everybody asking how I'm doing. It's like I never had any problems whatsoever.
Yeah, it's the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the energy. Like I say, you places have reputations for a reason. Mm-hmm. They don't come for nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And most of the time, like I said, you won't get caught slipping if you bring the right energy, right?
Right.
And Brooklyn is beautiful in terms of culture, right? There's a whole lot of culture in Brooklyn. So is Harlem. It's a little different, but it's the same, it's cultural. And you only have a problem when you bring the wrong energy, right? You hear Biggie say, spread love is the Brooklyn way, right? So it depends on what kind of energy you bring, And that's anywhere. Like I was in Kansas City one time, and I was on a training, and I decided, okay, I got a free night. Let me go see what they do in Kansas. I walked into a party, and I didn't know. I couldn't understand it. I was totally confused. It was a mixture of East Coast, West Coast, and I couldn't make. I just sat there dumbfounded. I was a wallflower. Just watching it go on, and I'm like, wow, it's totally different. And so my idea was, well, I got to play the wall, right? Because I don't know what's what here. It's just that different, I mean, I couldn't make sense of it, I wanted to get out on the dance floor and dance, right? But I didn't understand the dances they was doing, right? So I'm thinking, if I'm confused by what they doing, if I go out and do what I want to do, because I'm in the house, right? Now, I know what house looks like. Right? I know they're not gonna understand what I want to do when I get on the dance floor. So I'm like, I said, I'm just gonna have to watch tonight. This not for me. So I'm gonna watch, and then I'm gonna get out of here, right? Because I don't really know what's going on. But it's a beautiful place, right? The people were, but and that's why I wanted to go out, because I saw the people in the daytime. I went to the Negro League Baseball Museum out there, and to the Jazz Museum out there. And I had met a former Negro League player, and I'm thinking, okay, this is cool. It's flat. I like this place. Let me go on out and see what they got. And whoo. The only time I was taken back like that was I was down in the Gulf Coast, working, stationed between Gulfport, Mississippi, and New Orleans. And I was working that route for a while. And I've been down there long enough that I started going to church and down there, because I was going to be home, too far away from my church home, and I didn't want to not go to church. So I found a little church down there I was going to. And I decided, okay, one night I'm just going to go on out. Instead of heading to New Orleans, I'm going to stay right here in Gulfport and hang out. And I can't remember the name of the hole-in-the-wall little juke joint it was, but it was a juke joint. And I mean, the music was awesome, but it was funny.
Yeah, it's old school stuff.
Yeah, like every other, every other dollar too. I can't remember these songs, but they consider it soul music, right? But it sounds like blues to me, but they call it soul, right? So members only, that kind of thing. You get the music, and the dancing was beautiful. Right? The way they danced together was really nice. The clothes, though, okay, for me, it was just, and I don't want to, the podcast's going to go all over the place. People going to be like, but yeah, the clothes was something else, man. I couldn't get with that. But I really enjoyed it. It was a shocker, but I enjoyed myself so much, man. I had to find a radio station, and I stayed on that station for the whole time I was stationed out that way. The music was King George, I think, I can't remember the names of the. Matter of fact, they had a soul show here in Atlanta one time at the Atlanta Civic Center, and I went to it. And I went to it because I had gone out there, and I was like, oh, it's here. I didn't realize they came this way. I went, and it was the same sort of thing. It was like, and I was just so in love with it. I got a playlist. I can't pull up any of the names right now, but. Really enjoyed a juke joint, and so I wouldn't say shy away from places, but just be cautious and so forth and so on, and then conduct yourself as a guest when you're in guest spaces, and you get to learn something. I would say Black people are beautiful, I had the opportunity to go to South Africa with my family, and we went on safari. But the Black people there were so welcoming and nice to me. They realized, of course, he ain't from here.
Yeah, absolutely.
He ain't from here. And even the guide chief guide on the safari, he took us out every day, himself, and had dinners with us. Dinner was at night, But I had such a good time, And like I said, there was one of those places where one of the tour guides from the had told us we couldn't go downtown, Cape Town, because it was going to be, it was dangerous.
Yeah.
But we wanted to go downtown to get the art, not the touristy art, but the art. So we wanted to go to the art district, and we did. And they were great to us. So I just want to say, we don't have to be afraid of each other, but we have to recognize, when we see a predator, we now know what that is. And we have to recognize when spaces are non-hospitable, not because of anything, but it's a closed group, and you walked into a closed group, you didn't know, and so then you have to say, okay, well, let me be a guest, and as soon as I can move on, But I would want to say, to kind of go back to your original point is, men, we just have to do a little bit better about making sure we're well prepared to be men. Mm-hmm. And that we act that way and we exude that on a regular and consistent basis. And that we let our sisters know what a real man's supposed to look like so that they understand the difference between the two. So that they don't have to say that, we can't find a man. You can find him. He's out there, but he might not be what you normally think a man is.
Right.
You might be looking at the peacock's feathers and reading the wrong thing. He colored them that way so that he could attract you, but it don't mean that he really is what you're looking for.
Right.
So, and the same thing, real men don't really respond to a woman who won't acknowledge, his worth, and who he is really, and that's important. So if you feel comfortable with a bear, you might want to ask yourself, why is that? And what kind of men are in your circle,
So as we wrap it up, do we as men limit our scope to just men being our only threats when thinking about reasons why we need a firearm to protect ourselves?
I'll answer that question honestly. I've never thought of a woman as a threat to me. So I don't know. And I just honestly have never thought of a woman, have not had that experience where I was in a position where I thought a woman was a threat to me. Not because of anything else, I just never felt that energy from a woman that threatened me. Mm-hmm. So once again, it may have to do something about the circles we travel in, but I've never felt that way. I've never really felt, there are a few occasions where I felt like, something ignorant might really happen between me and someone who looked like me. Mm-hmm. Something ignorant can come on. But usually I'm good enough to get out of that, But that hasn't happened very often either. I think I try to present myself as somewhat neutral, right? I tell my son, I don't put out this energy or that energy. I try to be here, right? So that I can meet people and we can be harmonious. Now, I'm a little cautious when you meet me for the first time. So if you see me, you might say, I don't know if I want to talk to that guy. And I might be giving out the energy, I don't know if I want to talk to you either, right? But then if we sit and we have a conversation, you might find I have some things that I could share with you that might make you feel good or might help you. Mm-hmm. And I might learn something from you. You might say something that sparks something in me, and I might change my view on something because I'd never heard that perspective before. And I try to include those perspectives in my decisions, right? Like he mentioned something about his car, and I just started about the ice thing, when the ice thing happened, right? And I started thinking to myself, oh, that's interesting because of that, I keep a goose down blanket in my car. Mm-hmm. And we go to my car now, there's a goose down blanket in my car, just in case something like that happens. I never take it out because you never know, right? And it could be one night it's just cold, right? You don't have a battery, your car's not running, you can't get heat, so forth and so on. And because of that, I have a battery pack that's attached to a tire inflator and stuff like that. Those kinds of things we keep in our cars. Because anything can happen. It's part of that being prepared stuff and being confident when you go out because anything can happen. But yeah, man, I appreciate this conversation and the whole construct of, woman, bear, and so forth and so on. And I think it kind of gets at opening you up to what it is you have in your circle. It's, your answers kind of says a lot about what's in your circle, right, and what you've been exposed to. And I would say that if you're answering those questions where you'd rather have a bear than a woman in the woods, you might want to check your circle, and you might want to check out the energy that puts, because energy attracts certain things,
Because I mean, the scenario wasn't people that's close to you.
No.
People that the people that you don't necessarily know. Because if it was core group of people, then absolutely. I mean, just like your wife, his wife.
Yeah.
I mean, my core group of people. I mean, they all shooters. So I would pick them over anything. But a random person.
Oh, see that now you threw me for a loop, because
we were talking about random people.
Yeah, no, a random woman I wouldn't. A random. Not for any other reason than the fact that she's random. Right, and so that exposes me to a whole lot of other things, even as a young athlete at college, random women weren't necessarily a good thing to have around you. You know what I mean? Random women could cost you your scholarship, depending on which. And
that's why I said people are unpredictable.
Correct.
If it's a random person, I don't know what your intentions are.
That changed the whole thing. If I had to pick from my circle of family and friends, when you said woman, I was thinking about my circle of family, because I would never choose a random woman to go anywhere with me.
No. Because like I said, if it came down to, like you were talking about your circle, then I would absolutely, because I mean, I do have a close circle of people that are shooters. Even if it's not my wife, my other friends are shooters.
I wonder if we were if you were to have that conversation again with women again about, and maybe they understood it was random.
No, they understood it was random.
Okay, yeah, because me, like I said, I would definitely choose my firearm over anything random, right? Because I'm very familiar with it, right? And I know it's reliable, right? I keep it clean, and I know I can make it sing, So yeah, that's fine. But yeah, that changes things for me. Like I said, one piece of information can change your whole perspective, right? Yeah. Well, no random women, whatever.
Yeah, I say that I don't think we narrow our focus on men being a threat, at least for the use of firearms. Because I mean, all through history, that's what you see. Women can be a threat in a different way, but not necessarily where I need a firearm to protect myself against them. Like John said, it's so rare. It is. You can probably count on one hand. How many times you've heard of a female, going on a shooting spree in some sort, or using a gun to do this or do something malicious, because it's just not in their nature, in a sense. And men, for whatever reason, we've made ourselves a target to be a threat because of our nature and what we've been doing. And so, when you think about getting a firearm for protection, you're 9 times out of 10 the scenarios against a man, whether you are a man or whether you are a woman, you're trying to protect yourself against the threat of another man. And it's just so rare that we find women being in an aggressive state as men, unless they're provoked in a way. That's usually it. And so I don't think the focus is narrow at all. I just think it's just what we see, and not necessarily what we're accustomed to. It's just we see it, and it plays out, daily, on the news, in your circle. You know someone that's done something. Everybody knows somebody that. Just like Trick Daddy said, everybody knows somebody that knows something about it, and it's always leads down to a guy that was part of it. So yeah, I don't think our focus is narrow on that part.
Yeah, can I revise that answer again? I still think, playing out the scenarios. Now I'm putting it in like let's say it was some sort of quest type of thing, and we're in the woods, and I was told, okay, you have to choose between a woman to get you through this, a bear, or a gun. I would never take the bear, even though he could be a food source, but I wouldn't take him. Clearly, that's too random. If I'm in the woods, maybe I can make something to defend myself. I still think I'd like the company of a woman. Maybe we'd have to learn some things about her. I'd have to build trust but I still think I'd rather have that. Because even if I was just building hunting gathering or something like that, I'd still need assistance. I also think that I'm a community type person. I'd be pretty lonely with just me and my gun. I think I'd be pretty lonely with just me and my gun. I don't think wide open space, me and my gun, and freezing cold in different situations. I'm hot, But if I had a woman, I could have conversation. We could change things up. We could make things. You know what I mean? I don't know that I'd like. And if I could have both, then, that'd be like, utopia for me, right?
Yeah,
Good
absolutely.
woman, nice pistol. I can do everything from there. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate y'all, Sean and John. That's a funny name, Sean and John. Appreciate y'all for joining on this conversation, very interesting conversation. And until the next time, thank you all for tuning into this episode.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Bass Reeves Gun Club podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Don't forget to like and comment on the show to let us know what you think. And if you're interested in learning more about firearm safety, proficiency, and the shooting sports, and you're in the Atlanta area, please consider joining the Bass Reeves Gun Club. We're a pro-Second Amendment community of responsibly armed citizens, and we take pride in learning and sharing our knowledge within the community. You can find more about us and how to join at bassreevesgc.com. That's Bass Reeves, G as in Gary, C as in cat.com. Remember, stay fearless, knowing no master but duty. I am Antonio Hicks, and it's been my privilege to produce and edit this podcast, bringing these important conversations to life. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. If you're curious about more stories and insights in the avenue of politics, technology, and gaming, I invite you to join me on my own podcast, PTG TV. On PTG TV, we dive deep into a variety of topics, exploring the intricacies of our world with a mix of humor, seriousness, and everything in between. It's a space where we challenge norms, celebrate diversity, and foster a community of curious minds and open hearts. You can find PTG TV on all major podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Just search for PTG TV and hit subscribe. All opinions expressed by the podcast hosts, participants, and creators are their own and do not reflect the opinions of NAGA, the Bass Reeves Gun Club, which is the Atlanta chapter of NAGA or affiliated gun ranges, gun clubs, or companies.